is a Tony and Emmy award-winning actress you know from her work on The Good Fight, The Good Wife, and the Mamma Mia movie. She's currently starring in the second season of Hulu's 9 Perfect Strangers and returns for the highly anticipated third season, The Gilded Age, which premieres June 22nd on Max. Let's take a look.
Agnes, I ask that you be on your best behavior this afternoon, and if you cannot manage that, please have the courtesy to stay in your room or go out.
I'm being banished from my own home.
Not exactly.
May I remind you of the time when this house was your only shelter?
I've never been ungrateful.
Until now.
Bridget was given conflicting orders for the silver. Mum.
What's the problem?
I do not wish for those people to use my silver.
Are you really that petty?
I am discerning. There is a difference.
Please welcome back to the show one of the future stars of Cicada Cicada, Christine Baranski, everybody!
Good to be back. I haven't seen you in a while.
I haven't seen you in a while. We were in the same room for the SNL 50 Radio City concert.
We touched
Briefly touched. Everybody said it was the most dramatic part of the night. Did you enjoy yourself?
I was so glammed up. I had a silver sparkly suit.
You have to for an event like that. It's a once in a lifetime.
It was so exciting. And then I thought, I cannot believe I was actually a host on SNL.
You hosted a real transition year, the '96 year. This was sort of the beginning of the show's comeback. And this is one of my favorite things about SNL is like just a photo where you're like, I bet these three people would not have hung out together if it wasn't for SNL. It's you, Robert Smith, and Dennis Rodman. There you are. The gang, as you're known, the gang.
Oh, we've all kept in touch.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been friends, but now you're very close.
Now we're really friends.
You also did one of the early iterations of the classic Will Ferrell sketch.
Because it was his first season.
It was his first season. So this is a young man named Will Ferrell who shows up and basically does an entire sketch called Get Off the Shed.
Get off the shed! I will force you back into my womb!
No, did you? I mean, you're next to someone who obviously has become a generational talent. Were you aware of it at the time? This is so early in Will's career. Did you think, oh, this is something special that a guy is making it work with just screaming, "Get off the shed"?
He was so lovely to work with.
Yeah.
He was so funny, so generous. It's an amazing experience, and that was 30 years ago. And I love going, when I come here, I go down the lobby and there's the portraits of everybody, and I'm right next to Jim Carrey, because I was the second to the last host, and I didn't even know Jim Carrey, and then we worked together in The Grinch, and I'm like part of a gallery.
Yeah.
But, you know, now to have been a host on SNL is like a big deal.
And that was, you were doing that off the back of the wonderful show Sybil, and then...
And I had just really started Sybil because, well, but, you know, 30 years ago, you don't have to remember this, but she was a breakout character on this sitcom, and, you know, because it was Chuck Lorre, and he writes so brilliantly, and he wrote brilliantly for this character, I won an Emmy after only 13 episodes on the air, and then... So then I got asked after the following season, which is, you know, sometimes people wait a lifetime to be on SNL, and so that was great. And then I remember my two memorable things: standing behind the door with the orchestra just blaring and all that brass, waiting for your name. And then walk. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
It's crazy because, of course, I mean, you come from theater, so you know that, of course, behind that beautiful door, it is just like a dark, tiny little.
Yes, and then there's blinding lights, and then you make your entrance. Yeah, I'd made entrances, but that was quite. Whoa! And then the other thing that people probably don't know is at 11 o'clock at night, you know, the show goes live at 11:30.
Yeah.
I was in Lorne Michaels' office in hair curlers and a bathrobe deciding which skits we were going to put on.
It's surreal.
Because you do a dress rehearsal with all these skits and then they decide which skits work the best. I was like, guys, I gotta do my hair. I'm usually opening up my chakras now and doing some vocal warm-ups. Like,
there's no time for chakras at SNL. Yeah, very anti-chakra.
Only shock absorbers.
Yes, exactly. And you know, it's interesting now because, of course, that was sort of an early part of your TV career. Obviously, you're this accomplished stage performer and film performer, and now 2 television shows at the same time. What an interesting journey.
Crazy. It is. It's such a. It should give people hope because I was determined to be a theater actress. I had no desire to do TV, and then they would knock on my door and say, "Oh, but wouldn't you consider, a sitcom?" And I said, "Not if it shoots in California." I finally got talked in, because I was raising kids in New York. So I finally got talked into this show, being a supporting character on this show called Sybil by this writer, Chuck Lorre, whom I'd never heard of. Well, the rest is history because, television is so, everybody sees you on television. You could do 50 years of theater and never host SNL.
Right.
Or be recognized in Beijing, China, because you're Leonard's mother on The Big Bang Theory.
Yes. Now, I think it would surprise people. It surprised me. You only, so you played Leonard's mother, but you were only in 16 episodes.
Really?
Yes. But it was certainly based on, I would imagine, how often you recognize for it, you would have assumed far more.
Oh, it's amazing. If I look like this, people think Diane Lockhart or Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
But if I put this hair in hair clips,
yeah,
with pale lipstick, I get recognized anywhere in the world as Leonard's mother.
Yeah. And now this is, Agnes is a very iconic character. And, from the minute she appeared on this show, I think there was I think people all thought they maybe knew somebody that was a little bit like an Agnes. But she's become sort of an icon.
I know. She says what she means and she means what she says. And I just love her. She's so...
This is a sweatshirt, an Aunt Agnes sweatshirt. Heads have rolled for less.
Heads have rolled for less.
I mean, that's a pretty...
Now, if gay men are wearing this T-shirt at the Halloween parade in Greenwich Village, you know you have arrived.
Yes.
In that culture.
You are in the zeitgeist. Now, you mentioned you were raising your children in New York. I'm lucky enough to know your 4 grandsons, who are they are a robust group of polite young men. But
Seth and his family come over to Minnie's house.
Yes.
I'm known as Minnie to my grandsons. You come to Minnie's house. You missed a boating day yesterday.
This is the level of grandma. You were like, I mean, they don't have Emmys for grandmother, but like you rented a boat. You dragged them up and down a lake on just like inner tubes.
There was a whole day of screaming on a inflatable
joy screams.
Down a joy scream, and I even had a fire burning at the edge of the dock so they'd get, because it was kind of chilly and cloudy yesterday, but we had this boat and they were going to do it. After about 25 minutes of they'd get off the boat like their teeth are chattering. They get warmed up by the fire when Minnie gives them treats, and then they're right back on the boat.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And this is like 5 hours of this.
Yeah. The thing is, when I get cold, I'm like, I'm not going to go out for a week. Kids get cold, and they're like, just get me back in there. Yeah. Well, congratulations on everything. It is just such a delight to see you as always. You guys, Christine Baranski. New episodes of 9 Perfect Strangers premiere Wednesdays on Hulu, and the 3rd season of The Gilded Age returns to Max on Sunday, June 22nd. We'll be right back with James Acaster.